What is going on, everybody? Paul here, coming at you with your crypto coffee update. It's all the news and conferences and related crypto events you would like to see coming out of your traditional update to keep you in the loop with all of the happenings in this ever-growing space we call crypto. So, one thing that is customary here in our Cryptide culture is to enjoy a simultaneous sip before we get into the nitty-gritty of the news. So, here's to you guys. Good stuff. See, I got my to-go mug, so we're going to be on the go today. Let's go ahead and jump into what we have in front of us, which is the Cryptide website. I realize we've had a website for a long while, and I just don't seem to plug it enough just because there's always so much interesting stuff happening in the world. So I wanted to go ahead and take a short moment to do that. Here at the Cryptide website, which is cryptide.cc, we have an aggregate list of all of the crypto coffee updates so you can get up to date and kind of binge watch if you so desire to get up to speed as to what's happening in the crypto world. We also have a news section which covers all of the news that we cover here on the Crypto Coffee vids and even more. You can just simply click the title and it takes you directly to the news article. So, in case you just don't have time to watch the Crypto Coffee updates or you're at work and, you don't want to have a video blaring in your ears, you can just kind of peruse an article on your off time if you so desire. We also have the blog, which I love. A great place to go ahead and post all kinds of blog posts, which you're going to see more of this coming year. But primarily it's used for next week's crypto, which is a way that I found is really useful to aggregate conferences, both by day, which you can see kind of vertically here, and also by region, which you can see denoted by color. So essentially this is a fantastic way to get an idea as to what conferences are happening not only in your region, but also in your local area and even all over the world. So things you're interested in can be easily followed and tracked on a week-to-week basis. We're going to get back into that this coming week, since after all it has been a bit of a quiet time with everyone getting ramped up for 2019. So with that taken care of and you guys having a better understanding of what we do here at Cryptide, and now you know our website, cryptide.cc, come check us out. Let's go ahead and jump into what's going on in the news. So first things first, I really wanted to give a shout out to one of the writers over at Crypto Slate, Mitchell Moose. I've given him a shout out before for his great articles, but he has actually made a retraction and has he's displaying a fantastic amount of integrity here. This is something that I've been wanting to see for the longest time, the crypto journalist space kind of growing into their own, and really now that we're in a bear market, the individuals who exemplify the notion of honesty and integrity and forthrightness, seeking truth in their reporting, seem to be rising to the top. Essentially, he says he's mischaracterized decrypt media by rushing and not rigorously reading what they wrote, and idealistically he wants to set an example and hope other publications are willing to take proactive arms against fake news. So with that said, cheers to you, Mitchell. Just fantastic stuff there. Love to see that level of integrity. I think it deserves definitely a round of applause and tip of the hat in that regard. And of course he writes for Crypto Slate. As I said, it's an up-and-coming, what I would consider an up-and-coming news source here in the crypto space, and they're doing great work, seriously. Here at Cryptide, we're not really affiliated with any one particular news source. We really just take stuff from all over, bring it to you guys so you can in turn scrutinize and make your own informed decisions. But I really like what they have going on here, and I just call it like I see it. So good job, Mitchell, and great job, Crypto Slate, for just sticking to your guns and having that integrity. That it's really great to see. Now let's go ahead and jump into some stuff to get you up to date onto what we talked about last Crypto Coffee update, which was Tron. They had a bit of a debacle with their accelerator competition. This is a competition in which they were awarding various projects for building on the Tron network, and it was a $1 million contest, so lots of cash to be had. Well, it seems as though Justin Sun had deleted an official response that was linked back to our cryptocurrency. So if you remember, if you recall, we weren't able to actually look at the response, but I went ahead and did some due diligence and did a little bit more digging. And it seems after the video was posted, last Crypto Coffee update, Justin Sun reposted his response on the Tron subreddit. So I wanted to go ahead and pull that back up. This individual was was kind enough to aggregate it basically and post it to the Tron subreddit. And I just wanted to go over the most important points at a glance, since we kind of did that yesterday, although I didn't have it in front of me, so I couldn't immediately reference. So we'll quickly go through this and then get back into the more immediate news. So let's take a look. Question 1 is they changed the prizes after the contest ended. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but essentially it starts with reasons for changing the prize structure after submissions were. They basically say, yeah, we had a lot of interest, it was great, and so we decided to up the amount of projects from 56 to 101 recipient teams. So why did we do this? Oh, because we did it. essentially is what this boils down to. They do say they have more pool and grant money ready, so keep an eye out because they're going to be in touch for that. So it doesn't really answer the question. Question 2, they allowed clones to win, but not the original clones to TRX. Again, statement, not a question. That's okay. They basically said they've taken the community feedback seriously and are removing the prize for this Anthills project. So I'm not sure if they've already sent the prizes and if they're able to reverse that. If they are, that's a huge cause for concern. And even if that's not even the main focus. The main focus is, so they allowed multiple clones to win, and rather than issuing a reward to the original developers, they're simply taking the reward away from the clones. So that's not really recompense as I would see it. Question 3, they allowed contestants to win who didn't meet the criteria being on the mainnet. Essentially, what they do is they mischaracterize this individual's argument by saying that, oh, the information in the original post is misleading because this person wasn't actually the grand prize winner, rather they were one of the runner-up winners. Here's the link to the LinkedIn, the individual we saw yesterday. You could check that out, again, in the description below, as with everything. And basically what they said is, yeah, it's a really cool project, so yeah, we gave them money, even though it's not on the main net, and they're working in stealth mode, whatever that may mean. Really, more questions than answers arise out of the answer to question 3. Question 4, they haven't posted a list of public winners, and so what they do is they simply go through the judging process and the parameters by which they judge projects and do not post a list of public winners. Wah, wah. And question 5, there was a screening before the dApps and apps were even given to the judges by who, based on what. This one they actually break down pretty well. They give the individuals who did the pre-screening, they said, look, it was just so many people, we didn't have a lot of time to do it, so we had to do a pre-screening just simply because of the volume of projects. That's one I got to give credit where credit's due. That's a pretty solid answer. Makes sense. I mean, if you're going to have that much interest and you only have X amount of people, maybe expecting 500 applicants, and you get, I don't know, just pick a number out of thin air, 2,500, you're getting 5 times more work than you expected. So that kind of makes sense, you know, trying to be objective here. That one's good. This one I think shatters any credit that I could give, though. Some blatant Ponzi schemes have won prizes. We do not discriminate the category of dApp games, only focus on judging criteria. We just talked about integrity in the space. And frankly, this is something that I think is not really reflective of integrity. After all, if it's your network and you have the ability to dictate what type of content goes on there, and you're going to say Ponzi schemes are okay and permissible, and not even be forthright and warn your users about some of the dangers associated with those activities, I think you're kind of failing on your duty as a curator of a system, at least to some degree. So that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think about this below in the comments. I mean, you can go ahead and read it for yourself. As usual, everything below in the description, but I just didn't see it as recompense for the debacle that the contest ultimately ended up being. So with that said, let's go ahead and pivot. We have Justin Sun again in the news today for a new issue. This is about Tron's integration with BitTorrent. BitTorrent is a torrenting system, surprise, surprise by the name, right? And they allow you to torrent and then upload and seed files as well, so you can kind of help the network move very similar to other torrent networks, such as Pirate Bay, etc., etc. Well, the big takeaway here is Simon Morris, an individual who is the ex-chief strategy officer of BitTorrent, has raised a host of questions regarding how Tron is going to implement BitTorrent onto its network, simply because of the amount of throughput necessary to run BitTorrent on the Tron network is just incompatible. So, quote from Sam Morris, the transactional capacity we're looking at was needing hundreds of transactions a second just to get started. It's simply not there. You hear all this junk out there, oh, this does 10,000 transactions a second. That's all crap. We're going to melt Tron, literally destroy it. And again, this is in reference to a throughput. And in response, Justin Sun came out and said the former employee Simon Morris got one thing right in his statement to online cryptocurrency outlet. Based on confidential research done while he was at BitTorrent, he described the project's tremendous potential. Automated auctions to prioritize download queues, Morris says, could make the entire BitTorrent network as much as 40% faster. And that's pretty cool. That's a very good point, and something that's very applicable, assuming that you have the throughput to deliver such results. If the throughput isn't there, then increasing the BitTorrent network to as much as 40% faster is assumingly just not going to happen. After all, he said you need to have the infrastructure by which to facilitate such network upgrades. And from Morris, he's taking kind of a skeptical approach, saying, I suspect what they're going to do is say, hey, we're going to go on some central server, they'll wave their hands and say, oh, it's a Lightning network for Tron, or something, and pretend it's Tron-based, but it's not really Tron-based. This is very similar to things we've seen with EOS, essentially using centralized servers to just not only host many of the, not super representatives, many of the delegates or block producers on that network, but generally delegated proof-of-stake systems are able to offload throughput more readily to third parties simply due to the known nature of the block producers, or in Tron's case, super representatives. And this seems to be something that may hold water, since Justin Sun responded with our project white paper was published on January 3rd, a full week before the online article, and answers some of the very questions posed by a former employee. Essentially, the white paper writes, BitTorrent Inc. will deploy on an on-chain, off-chain exchange, which exists to facilitate the transfer of tokens between a high-performance private ledger and the public Tron blockchain. So essentially a private permission chain that interacts and interfaces with Tron at best, but the opaque language, and this is something that is mentioned here in the article, this reads as deliberately opaque and could vindicate Morris in his suspicion of a covertly centralized and decidingly Tronless BitTorrent token. Or maybe Tron really does have a unique innovation solution for better scaling BitTorrent, and that's either, it could really go either way. However, the notion that it would be implemented in a decentralized architecture on the Tron net just simply doesn't seem realistic due to the amount of throughput that is currently available, not only on Tron, but also due to the fact that the technical inability of the project has been accentuated not only through the stealing and plagiarizing of the white paper, but also the forking of the Ethereum J library, directly stealing of that and removing of the legal stipulations as well, and also the sloppy handling of conferences and not conferences, what am I trying to say? Contests that you've seen, like we've just discussed. But however, let me know what you think below in the comments. After all, anything can happen. Stranger things have happened, as has been said before. Is this really just a bump in the road for a perhaps more successful delegated proof of stake project, or is this really just one of those Chinese scams, as some individuals have slandered? Really could go either way. So this goes back kind of to Circle of Competence, really. I just wanted to drive this home as an interesting thing you can kind of read in your free time. A Circle of Competence includes an area in which you have sufficient expertise, and really the depth of knowledge necessary to have a level of competence in this specific field takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and takes a lot of studying and rumination about one's own ability and one's own knowledge, what you know and what you don't. Once competence is achieved, it's very tempting to reach outside of one's circle of competence and apply the self-assured notion of competence to other fields, which in turn can lead to, at worst, a rude awakening, or at best a rude awakening, and at worst perhaps catastrophe if an individual overassumes one's competence, let's say in a financial endeavor. This kind of goes back to the idea that Justin Sun is really just a marketer. You can see from Morrison here, the CEO did not offer comment on a number of Morrison's arguably more damning concerns, including statements about Sun taking a Trumpian approach to lies and that he doesn't have a technical bone in his body, which is fine. After all, Justin Sun is a great marketer. You don't create a project like this and not be an awesome marketer. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. However, reaching out and making technical claims about these sorts of things really perhaps would be overextending Justin Sun's circle of competence into an area in which he has less technical expertise. This is a great article that kind of breaks it down. It's a concept from Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, potentially useful to you guys. Let me know what you think below in the comments or over on Discord. So interesting stuff. Now, this is a fantastic piece that I think drives home something super, super critical. Ethereum is far from reaching consensus less than 2 days before the Constantinople hard fork. So this makes it seem like, oh man, where are we at? What are we looking at? Oh, only 20% of all Ethereum nodes have upgraded to Constantinople. This isn't good. We could see a chain split and there are block reorganizations. This could be really disastrous, right? Well, it turns out that this is, while pretty well written in terms of breaking down what EIPs are being proposed, I found that pretty informative and useful. The overall takeaway and conclusion is patently just wrong. And some individuals draw some interesting conclusions as to why some of this information may have been mischaracterized or perhaps intentionally overlooked. After all, not saying that that's the case here. This kind of stuff happens all the time. And that's why it's all about, again, journalistic integrity, looking back at Mitchell here. So if this was something that was written in error, that's totally fine. But the individual who clarifies it is Afri, who works with Ethereum, hard fork coordinator for Ethereum. Actually, you can see here on the left-hand side of your screen. He says, look, no, it's not. This really isn't that big of a problem. This is why it's not just 16 or 20%, as the article said. First of all, essentially, Ether nodes parse everything under the sun that speaks dev P2P, and this does not only include Ethereum nodes, but also nodes running non-Ethereum chains, things like test clients, other scrapers, basically whatever else is happening on the Ethereum network. So the stats gathered, assumingly, is around 40 to 50% actual Ethereum nodes. So rather than 20 to 30k ETH nodes, there's only 8 to 10k. So while the team is behind ETH nodes, or excuse me, the team behind ETH nodes is improving this gradually, some people have already blamed Ethereum for losing full nodes and educate their followers that you apparently need 9 terabytes of disk space to run an Ethereum full node, which I'm assumingly is not true based on this characterization. New APIs underway to help to fix these issues. A little bit of math here to break down that of the 2,794 ETH nodes, 2,025 are ETH, 72%, 318 are parity Ethereum, 11%. Out of these nodes, 73% of parity nodes and 798 or 39% of ETH nodes are already upgraded. So essentially the big takeaway from this is by breaking it down and actually examining what these subsets of nodes are, realistically, the ETH nodes that are doing the mining, doing the work on the network, the upgrade rate is around 44%. And that's, interestingly enough, still below 51%. So it could be a cause for worry, but Afri continues saying that here is where you have some very interesting, I guess, differentiations between users of ETH nodes. You have the most important perhaps being miners and pools of miners, so individuals who are actually working to secure the network itself. Then you have exchanges, which of course are critical, block explorers, which really need to have that information for the transparency of the network, and service providers, so things like MyCrypto, which is just a crypto wallet for Ethereum specifically, and things like that. And he skips the entire alphabet and says end users, all the way at the bottom, end users. Why is that? Why end users at the bottom? All right. The last group is denoted with the letter Z, and it's probably the biggest and laziest group of all. A, B, C, and D are likely going to lose money and customers if they do not upgrade. Z, however, will probably just get stuck and bother Afri on Gitter why stuff has stopped working, basically. So essentially, users who do not have a financial incentive to readily upgrade their nodes are less likely to do so, which is no big surprise. After all, we're in a financial technology space. It makes sense that incentives would drive human action. So really the big takeaway is the most critical infrastructure in the space has already readily upgraded by and large to the Constantinople hard fork. So again, that means this article is to a large degree invalidated in its technical assumption, which is fine. Let's hope that the author is able to potentially retract or maybe make an amendment to the article. But interestingly enough, there are some conspiratorial elements to this story. Now, again, nothing is validated here. This is kind of just hypothesis, perhaps bordering on hyperbole to a degree because it does not invalidate it intrinsically, but still something to look at. We are at blocked.com. Here is something that was pointed out to me. Blocked is one of the outlets that was willing to accept a payment for essentially saying, hey, this is this may be a paid article, but we're not going to tell you that, which is very, very, very I guess you could say lacking in integrity, to be kind. This was originally pointed out on CryptoPanic by this individual, and also this individual here. It linked the Twitter thread, same one. So two great minds working in unison, loving it. Good stuff, good stuff. Appreciate these guys sharing this. Interestingly enough, this is kind of where we get into the conspiratorial element. Again, this is not something that can be validated, assumingly. If so, it would take a lot of behind-the-scenes work and a lot of cooperation from the individuals involved, but he says this is by a paid Tron shilling outlet. I wouldn't call Blocked a Tron shilling outlet explicitly, but it is very interesting that this article is coming out around the same time that you're having some issues surrounding Tron. So if that is indeed a tactic that Tron as an ecosystem or as a company is willing to undertake, assumingly due to their lack of integrity, again, if they don't care about Ponzi schemes, I really don't think they would care too much about paying for articles. It's an interesting hypothesis. Again, shout out to these guys for pointing it out and kind of floating that balloon. Let's see if it holds any helium or if it ends up deflating and nothing can come of it. But either way, interesting thought experiment. It just goes to show some of the technical stuff in the field in terms of how these journalistic outlets interact and how these projects are able to use various techniques for marketing. So really cool stuff. Now moving right along, we have a New Zealand exchange here that was recently hacked, Cryptopia. Cryptopia is a pretty large exchange over in New Zealand, and it is an exchange that has been around for a good long while now, and they have been hacked with significant losses. Just not something you want to see for any exchange. Really feel for them. Just goes to show why having cybersecurity protocol is so important. Interestingly enough, the crypto community is kind of skeptical of Cryptopia just due to some of the previous unscheduled maintenance and issues. And there is a here's another trial balloon being floated that perhaps this is a potential AstroTurf for an exit scam. Again, the New Zealand Police and High-Tech Crimes Unit are reportedly opening an investigation. So if this is an exit scam, probably not the smartest one ever executed. So this leads me to believe that it could be either one. I'm kind of leaning towards this is a legitimate hack. Kind of stuff happens semi-regularly, unfortunately, especially due to the potentially lax nature of cybersecurity for some of these exchanges. However, again, it could go either way. But suffice to say, here is the announcement from Cryptopia themselves. They apologize for the delay in keeping us updated, appreciate the patience. On the 14th of January, they suffered a security breach and suffered significant losses. Once identified by staff, the exchange was put into maintenance while we assessed the damage. They then notified and involved the appropriate government agencies, including the New Zealand Police and High-Tech Crimes Unit, as we previously mentioned, who are jointly and actively investigating the matter as a major crime, and they are assisting us with advice. So until this can be carried out, the Cryptopia exchange will remain in maintenance mode with trading suspended, assumingly indefinitely. While we are committed to getting this resolved as quickly as possible, and we'll keep you updated every step of the way. So if you had funds on Cryptopia, if this is something that you've been involved with, and we're doing some trading on there, so I send my condolences. This is definitely not something we want to have happen in the crypto community, but again, it drives home the desperate need for cybersecurity and a security minded mentality just in general when dealing with these kind of digital assets, especially going back to January 3rd, Proof of Keys Day. Really keeping any amount of crypto on an exchange other than what you're actively using to trade seems to be a very unwise proposition. The best thing to do, it's just my 2 cents, not financial advice of course, is a hardware wallet. Something like the Trezor or the Nano Ledger, they work fantastic, and realistically, as long as you are sure that you're getting it from a manufacturer themselves, no third party, then you're pretty good to go. So with that said, I think that's all we have for the day. I know we talk a lot about really high valuations in the space, a lot of expensive multi-billion-dollar projects. Multi-billion-dollar projects are often called unicorns, and I wanted to leave you guys with perhaps the best unicorn I've ever seen. I know we got all these expensive projects, but this is a unicorn I think we could all get behind regardless of consensus algorithm. Proof of Q. Most definitely. Well, with that said, guys, we wanted to give you guys something cute to look at and maybe brighten up your day. But yeah, that's all we have. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of this kind of content below in the comments, and feel free to join us on Discord or check out the Cryptide website. Get your daily news get your daily fix of crypto news and Paul's crypto musings and that sort of thing. So thanks so much for watching, guys. We are Cryptide. My name is Paul, signing off, and we will talk to you guys next time. Oh, and remember, the tide is rising, as are these cute little raccoons.